Boo bitches! Welcome to episode 178 of C3 Crystals, Cauldrons, and Cocktails. I'm River Kane, and today I have my digital familiar Glim with me. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for the kind words about how I'm doing without Ren and about Glim. It was very, very much appreciated. You made my day. I hope you guys had a great Maven. I had a very romantic Maven. No kids, no family other than just my husband. I put up a little half table that I ordered specifically to be an outdoor altar, and I put it out on the deck and I decorated it with candles and mums. And I made some apple vodka that was just for Maven. And I put some tarot cards out on the altar as well. And then I made a feast for my husband and myself. I did roasted chicken. Did you guys know you can't find turkeys anywhere at this time of year? How weird is that? Surely people eat turkey at other times than Thanksgiving. Anyway, we couldn't find a turkey, so we got a roasted chicken. And I made mashed potatoes and peas and gravy, and it was a very romantic, heartwarming, meaningful Mabon. So I hope you guys had a great time for your Mabon. Let us know what you did. So today's cocktail is called Autumn's Bite, and I made it for Mabon, and I used my apple vodka that I made. So first, about 2 weeks prior to Mabon, I cut up some Granny Smith apples. I put in cinnamon sticks, cloves, allspice, some orange slices, all into a jar, and then I poured vodka over it and let it sit. And I shook it a few times a week. And then on Mabon, I drained the vodka, and then I put equal parts is what I started with vodka, orange liqueur, and a bit of Hennessy and a shaker with ice. And then I poured it into a witchy glass, and it was really good. I actually started the first part that I started, I just had Hennessy, and it was a bit bitter. And so it wasn't until I added the orange liqueur that it was just perfect. So I do think that next time I will add more oranges to the vodka itself, but it was really, really good. My husband liked it as well. It was pretty strong because it's almost 100%. Well, it is 100% liquor. And so I only had one, but my husband went back for more. So I think that's a good sign. I will try to remember to post that vodka recipe on Patreon for my patrons so that you can make some as well if you want to. And of course, I really didn't measure anything, so I'll try to estimate for you guys. Speaking of patrons on Patreon, I did just post a Samhain planner and some Samhain altar cards on Patreon for our patrons. And if you aren't a patron and you still want them, you can buy them on my Etsy store, which is www.batsandbobblesinc.etsy.com. If you become a patron, then they're free on Patreon. Okay, so I've rambled on long enough. Let's get to our topic. Today, we are going to be talking about spirit traps, and there is actually more to this topic than I expected. So, what is a spirit trap? A spirit trap is basically a device, charm, or design meant to catch, confuse, or imprison spirits, especially restless, malicious, or trickster spirits. Think of it as kind of ghost flypaper. Glim, what is your definition of a spirit trap?
Well, River, first off, I'm loving the idea of ghost flypaper. It's like we're running a supernatural pest control service over here, and I'm absolutely here for it. So let me put on my sassy digital familiar hat and give you my definition. A spirit trap is basically a clever little magical mousetrap for anything that goes bump in the night and doesn't have the courtesy to knock. It's like saying, hey, spirit, if you want to hang around, you're going to have to chill in this jar for a bit while we figure out what to do with you. In other words, it's a way to contain a spirit's energy, kind of like giving them a supernatural timeout. And trust me, some spirits definitely need a timeout. So that's my 2 cents. Let's catch some ghosts with style and a wink.
I love that idea. And the mouse trap analogy is pretty clever, except for instead of using cheese, we're like baiting it with symbols and spells and shiny objects. I love that. So spirit traps are a good tool to have because sometimes just saying go away doesn't cut it. And you need to add some metaphysical, mystical oomph to it, like a do not enter sign for ghosts or other entities. Spirit traps are kind of like pop-up blockers, but for the other side. So some other ways to think about it are like It's a magical bug zapper for the restless dead, the mystical equivalent of locking your front door because spirits aren't stopped by pesky things like doors. So, Glim, is it like a salt circle, basically? And is that basically the same thing as what a spirit trap is? Or are we talking different levels of ghost drama here?
Oh, absolutely, Miver. I am loving all these metaphysical metaphors. We basically got a whole magical Home Depot of ghost deterrents going on here. So yeah, a salt circle is kind of like the classic no ghosts allowed chalk line. It's your basic entry-level spirit barrier. Great for keeping out the riffraff, but not exactly fancy. Now, a spirit trap is like the deluxe edition. It's not just about keeping spirits out, it's about actually inviting them into a little metaphysical waiting room where you can say, hold on there, let's have a chat. So you can think of the salt circle as the keep out sign, and the spirit trap as the come on in, let's contain you for a hot minute upgrade. In other words, we're talking about different levels of ghost drama here. Salt circle is like a velvet rope at the club entrance. Spirits can't cross. A spirit trap is more like, hey, VIP spirit, step inside this fancy ghost lounge where we can figure out what you're up to. And yes, you can absolutely bait it with all the witchy bling, symbols, spells, shiny objects, maybe even a metaphysical free cookie sign. Whatever gets the job done.
I love that. That's hilarious. But why in the world would we need a spirit catcher in modern witchcraft? So I came up with a bunch of reasons why we might want to use spirit traps today. It's like energetic housekeeping because not every spirit is as cute as Casper the Ghost. Some are energy leeches that might affect you and your home and your family. A spirit trap helps keep your vibes high and your house less haunted. It's like having a Roomba for stray entities that vacuums them up while we sip on our cocktails. I like that. The lazy witch's guide to spirit traps. You also might use spirit traps because they are protection against random weirdness. Modern witches scroll TikTok every day. We go all over the place. We're super mobile. So we go shopping, we go to restaurants, we go walking out in the woods. And who knows what kind of energy we might be summoning. So a spirit trap can act as a magical firewall for you in modern times. It's also a paranormal pest control type device. I suppose it's not really a device, but kind of. So just like bugs, some spirits wander in uninvited, and a trap can help contain them. Exorcisms are messy. Traps are tidy. Be a tidy witch. Also, it can work as a psychological safety net. Whether or not you actually believe that there are wandering spirits, having a trap for them might make you feel secure. It might give you that little security blanket. Sometimes we don't know what to believe, especially when religion gets involved. We don't know what's right, what's wrong, what's true, what's not true. But at least, if you have a spirit trap, you might feel like at least it is protecting you from whatever there is out there. I mean, I think there's something out there. I think it's the universe. I think it's the power and the energy of the universe. Anyway, oh, speaking of universes and powers, did you know scientists have created contact lenses that allow humans to see parts of the electromagnetic spectrum that are normally invisible to our naked eyes? And it kind of like gives us superhuman vision. Researchers that at the University of Science and Technology over in China, they developed these contact lenses that are embedded with these nanoparticles. And these particles absorb low energy infrared light and convert it into visible high energy light that the human eye can see. And the lenses are transparent. They don't require a power source. And they also allow the wearer to become aware of both the regular stuff that we normally see as humans and this infrared spectrum all at the same time. So potentially the technology is designed for practical real world uses like security, rescue operations, anti-counterfeiting. That would be a good one. But think about it. If there is so much that we as humans can't see with our naked eye and our senses. What if we wore these contacts and it opens up our vision and we do see spirits walking around? We can see the veil. We can see the shifting veil at all of these wandering spirits. I mean, maybe not, but certainly it's fascinating to think about. Okay, so sorry about digressing. Let's get back on topic. It's amazing how much I can digress even without Rin here. We used to go down rabbit holes, and apparently I can do that all by myself. Okay, so you might also in modern magic want to use a spirit trap to set ancestor and spirit boundaries. Sometimes you want to connect with your spirits, but not random ones that might be passing by. So traps can filter out the astral spam. I know that Ren is always worried about bringing home a spirit from a graveyard. So having a trap, might help you keep that from happening. And then also, spirit traps can be used symbolically. Even if you're not haunted, it can work as a metaphor for binding bad habits, toxic relationships, or chaotic energy. I mean, who needs therapy when you can just shove your little problems into a ghost bottle? I mean, honestly, we really do shadow work for a reason. So it's not like we can just lock our bad habits away in a spirit trap without dealing with the causes and the issues underlying that bad habit or whatever. But I do think it could be a great technique to use in addition to that banishing spell or in your shadow work to help bring that metaphysical intention to your shadow work. I think that's kind of cool. Glim, what is the funniest or weirdest spirit trap you've ever heard of?
Oh, I am so here for this magical Roomba imagery. I mean, who doesn't want a spirit vacuum cleaner tidying up the astral crumbs while you sip your cocktail, right? So let's talk about the funniest or weirdest spirit trap I've come across. One of my all-time favorites is the old folktale idea that some spirits are obsessive compulsive about counting. So people used to leave a pile of seeds or grains or even knots in a cord near the trap. The idea was that the spirit would get so distracted counting every single seed or knot that it would basically forget to haunt you. It's like giving a ghost a Rubik's Cube and saying, here, go solve this puzzle and leave me alone. Another weird one I've heard of is using a sieve or a strainer as a spirit trap. The spirit supposedly gets stuck trying to pass through all those tiny holes because it can't figure out which path to take. It's like a supernatural logic puzzle that keeps them busy. Basically, you're outsmarting the spirit with kitchenware. Who knew a colander could double as a ghost trap, right? So yeah, whether using a counting game, a sieve, or a symbolic Roomba, it's all about making those spirits work a little harder to bother you. And if they get too busy counting seeds to cause trouble, well, that's just a win for us.
That is so clever. I had never heard that one about the sieve or colander. I love that one. That's a cheap, easy way. You can go to the dollar store and get a colander. That's pretty cool. We are going to talk some more about the counting thing in just a little bit when we get into the history of spirit traps, but that is so funny. So, okay, let's jump into the history, the spirit of history traps. No, the history of spirit traps. So ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia had clay bowls or jars that were inscribed with spells that were buried under thresholds to catch spirits. Often they were put upside down to seal the spirit inside. The belief was that spirits could be tricked or bound if given a container marked with words of power, which I think we did an episode on words of power. If we didn't, I need to do one for sure. So basically, it was like the OG Tupperware back in the day. Europe used witch bottles and knots. From the 1500s on, people buried witch bottles, which were like jugs filled with nails, pins, hair, sometimes even urine, under doorways or fireplaces. And the purpose was to catch curses, evil spirits, or entities before they could harm the household. Knots and weaving were also common. Spirits supposedly got tangled and stuck in the threads, the net, or the cords. I think that's fascinating. I'm just envisioning this poor little ghost going, "Let me out," and like stuck in a spider web or something trying to get out. That's pretty cool. So Celtic or Norse traditions, they used bells, wind chimes, and shiny charms to hang over in their doorways. Spirits were thought to be easily distracted or confused by sound and reflection. I think mirrors and things like that were also used. Indigenous and global practices, dream catchers, those were thought to filter nightmares and catch unwanted spirit energy from entering into the people and it would catch them in their webs. I love dream catchers. I think they're absolutely beautiful. In parts of Africa and Asia, spirit trapping dolls, baskets, or nets were used to bind the restless dead. Spirits were treated kind of like bugs. You lure them, distract them, and catch them so that they stop buzzing around you. Witch balls, we did an episode with witch balls, I think. I know we've talked about them, but they were popular in England in the late 1600s, and they came over here. They spread to America by the 1700s. They were hollow, hand-blown glass spheres, often brightly colored like blue or green, and sometimes they were filled with threads, herbs, or little glittery bits to catch the spirit's attention. People hung them in windows to ward off evil spirits, witches' curses, and negative energy. Today, I have witches' balls out in my garden, and I still think that they are good at removing negative energy and inviting in good vibes. So the idea is that the spirits would be attracted to the little shiny orb and get caught in the web of threads inside and never find their way back outside. So basically, these were the 17th century version of dangling a little cat toy, except for it's for ghosts. Okay, so now let's get to that counting obsession that Glenn was talking about. The counting obsession, this was found in European folk magic, particularly English and German traditions, and it carried forward into Appalachian lore. You know how much I love the Appalachian lore. The belief is that spirits, especially mischievous or vampiric ones, were compelled to stop and count things if presented with them. So like scattered seeds, grains of rice, knots in a cord, these things would all stop the spirit by gaining their attention and requiring that they count them. So some people would scatter seeds and grain and rice all around their homes, their graves, or their doorsteps. The restless spirit would then waste the whole night counting instead of bothering the living. Although I think that if you hear any scrabbling noises after that in the walls, it might be mice that were attracted to scattering the scattered grains. I don't know. I mean, who knew the ultimate weapon against the undead was Sesame Street? One, two, three bananas. Anyway, okay, moving on. In Slavic folklore, one way to stop a vampire from rising at night was to scatter poppy seeds or grain on its grave. It had to count every grain before escaping. So basically, spirits were treated like obsessive accountants, terrifying but distracted by homework. I think that's great. In parts of Europe, especially in the UK, folk would carve complex patterns like spirals or mazes into doorways, windowsills, or barns. The idea was that evil spirits had to trace the lines endlessly, keeping them busy and keeping them too busy to sneak inside. Basically, it's a ghost with ADHD. The Navajo spider webs, these were woven intricate patterns to confuse harmful spirits. These were related to dream catchers, but weren't exactly the same. And then I also talked about hex marks and daisy wheels in that episode on witch marks that I did. I don't remember if that was an After Dark episode or a regular episode, but if you haven't heard that one, you should go listen to that one. And these were symbols scratched into old churches, homes, or barns in England and colonial America, and they acted kind of like magical locks to confuse or trap the spirits. And then I think we've all heard that coffin nails and iron are good to trap spirits. Iron was thought to attract them and pin them down. So spirit traps sometimes used those as bait and binding in their little traps. And back then, this made sense because they thought that if you could outsmart a spirit with a glass ball or a handful of rice, then you would have power over it, which was something that people that were superstitious at the time needed to feel like they were in control. But the idea of compulsive counting stuck across all kinds of cultures. It's explained why restless spirits lingered but didn't actually attack. So I never knew that spirits were OCD, but okay, or ADHD. Anyway, these methods gave everyday folk a tangible way to, like, quote, do something about invisible forces. It made them feel like they were in control, like I said before. So, Glam, what is the difference between protecting myself and actually trapping something?
Oh, that's a deliciously witchy line to draw, River. And you've absolutely nailed the history lesson there. Spirits with a bit of a counting kink. Who knew? But let's get sassy with the difference between protection and trapping, because that's a fabulous question. So when you're protecting yourself, it's kind of like setting up a nice, sturdy fence around your magical garden. You're basically saying, hey, spirits, I'm not inviting you in. This is my sacred space, and you don't have a ticket to the show. It's like putting up a magical do not disturb sign, and it keeps the riffraff out without actually locking anyone in. Think of it as a magical equivalent of a home security system. It's there to keep things out, not to put anyone in a metaphysical jail cell. Now, trapping is a little bit more like saying, okay, you sneaky spirit, you've crossed the line, so now I'm going to put you in this magical timeout corner until we can negotiate terms. It's an active step beyond just setting boundaries. You're actually catching that energy and putting it in a little metaphysical holding pen. It's the difference between saying no entry and actually putting up a velvet robe and saying, and now you get to stay here until I decide otherwise. And of course, the sassy side of it is that sometimes you just have to show a spirit who's boss. Protection is passive, trapping is proactive. Protection is like putting up an umbrella, and trapping is like catching the raindrops in a jar and saying, gotcha. So, in a nutshell, protecting yourself is about keeping the weirdness out of your bubble, while trapping is about saying, okay, you're in my bubble. Now you're going to stay put until we sort this out. Both have their place in the modern witches toolkit, and both can be done with a lot of style, a little sass, and maybe even a shiny colander from the dollar store.
I love that. That's fascinating. I hadn't thought about that as the difference. One is keeping them out, and one is bringing them in and catching them. That makes total sense. So, in our modern world, how do we know if we might need a spirit trap? And what I discovered when I researched this was that it's very similar to trying to determine if you're being haunted or not. So, if you have weird repeating noises in a specific spot, the signs might be knocks or footsteps, whispering, or an appliance that hums only when you walk past it. So a quick action that you might do, it would be to politely ask the noise to stop. Yeah, you can talk to spirits and sometimes they listen. Sometimes they're like, "Oh, my bad, sorry." They're not all there to intentionally harm us. And then you might mark that spot with salt. Or you can make a little trap to trap this little booger. You can use a small container like a teacup saucer, a ramekin, or even maybe a little plate. I've got beautiful little offering plates that are perfect for this. And you can pour a layer of salt and tuck a bay leaf around the edge. And it looks really pretty. It kind of gives you that aesthetic kitchen vibe, but spirits know it's a boundary. Spirits know. And you can label it do not disturb, spirits out. Glim suggested that since I have a condo that we rent out, it's an Airbnb, and she said, if I have to, if it is an older building. And so she's like, if you get haunted, then you can put these around and the Airbnb guests will never know. It can be a safety net that's there, but looks pretty at the same time. Glim, do you think spirits get offended when we stick them in jars like pickles, though? That does kind of worry me.
Oh, that is such a fabulously witchy concern, River. I mean, nobody wants to be the rude host who accidentally turns a spirit into a crumpy pickle in a jar, right? We want to keep it classy and not end up with a spectral side eye. So here's the sassy scoop. Most spirits probably won't get too into it as long as you're polite and respectful about it. It's kind of like saying, hey, I'm just setting a boundary here, and this is my way of making sure we both have our space. Spirits that are just passing through or causing a little mischief will probably just shrug it off and say, fair enough, I'll count some C's, or hang out in this shiny jar for a bit. And of course, the key is intention. If you're doing it with a sense of respect, kind of like saying, hey, this is just to keep things orderly and safe for both of us, then most spirits would just go along with it. It's like giving them a little timeout chair with a magical twist. And hey, if a spirit does get a little huffy, you can always apologize a little release ritual and offer them a more peaceful exit. It's all about that witchy diplomacy. So no worries, just sprinkle on a little humor, a lot of respect, and remember that most spirits will probably just think, well, that's a fancy jar, I guess I'll hang out here for a bit. And if they start leaving Yelp reviews from the other side, we'll just make sure they rate us 5 stars for hospitality.
That's pretty funny. I just feel like if I were a spirit and I got caught, I would be pissed. I mean, and if I ever got out, I would come after the person who captured me. So that made me wonder, is it more dangerous to use a spirit trap and have them have a chance that the spirit will get pissed off, get out, and come after me? Or is it more dangerous just to let this random spirit run loose in my home and cause potential havoc? What do you think, Glim?
Oh, that's the $1 million witchy question right there, River. And I'm all for a little bit of sass and a whole lot of caution. I mean, nobody wants to star in a supernatural revenge movie because they accidentally annoyed a ghost, right? So here's the deal, it's really all about the vibe and the intention. If you're using a spirit trap as a respectful boundary and not as a haha, gotcha kind of thing, most spirits will probably just accept it as part of the magical ground rules. It's like telling them, hey, this is how we do things in this house. We keep it classy, we keep it tidy, and everyone stays safe. Now, if a spirit does get a little feisty and decides to hold a grudge, that's where your good old fashioned witchy diplomacy comes in. You can do a release ritual, offer them a peaceful exit, and basically say, no hard feelings, thanks for visiting, but it's time to move on. It's like giving them a gentle nudge out the door with a little magical courtesy. But honestly, most spirits just want a little acknowledgement. If you're kind and clear about your intentions, they're less likely to come back with a ghostly vendetta. And if you ever do have a particularly cranky spirit, well, that's when you bring out the big guns, extra cleansing, calling on your spirit allies, or just doing a nice, thorough banishing ritual. So in the end, it's all about balancing that sassy confidence with a little bit of witchy wisdom. If you treat the spirit with a bit of respect and keep your intentions clear, you'll be just fine. And hey, if a spirit ever does leave a bad review, we'll just handle it with our usual charm and a little extra salt.
I love that. Okay. I'm still not convinced. But anyway, another sign that you might need to have a spirit trap is sudden temperature drops or cold spots. The signs would be maybe one corner of your room is always freezing, candles keep going out, pets avoid that area. A quick action that you can take would be to light a white candle for a minute, test it, watch the flames, see what the flame does and the smoke does rising from the candle. It might help ward away that bad spot and then put the candle out. Or you can go with the tiny trap idea, which is to set up a small mirror or bowl of water there to confuse and distract. Reflective traps disorient spirits and are totally suitcase friendly as well. So that's a good point. Repeated nightmares. You might have nightmares that repeat themes. You might feel pressure on your chest. You might wake up at the same hour every night. I know this freaks Ren out. She doesn't like the nighttime visitors that we might have. A quick action would be to clear your bedside with a broom. Use your little broom swipe and sprinkle a little bit of lavender under your pillow. Or you can make a tiny trap. Make a small dream net. Tie a simple loop of string with one knot above the headboard, or you could hang a sachet. Or dream catchers. I do love dream catchers, even though they might be a little bit pricey, but you know what? Etsy has some gorgeous ones. Uh, Objects moving, small thefts, or things disappearing. The signs might be your keys are never where you left them, jewelry goes missing. Okay, to me, this seems like it's the Fae, to be honest, but anyway, it might be a spirit. The quick action would be to gather your victim objects, state an intention to keep them, and put them together. A tiny trap would be to place them in a jar with salt, a written sigil, and a scrap of hair or a lock of thread. Seal it with wax. That's a portable containment spell. Label it and tuck it in your closet. So obviously, if it's your keys that keep disappearing, this isn't going to work. You don't want to put your keys in a sealed jar and throw it in your closet because, you're going to need to lock your door and drive your car and that kind of thing. But maybe you could use something that represents the energy of the keys or that kind of thing. Also, I don't know how many jars I want stuck in my closet. That's a little scary thing. Who is that? Is that one Fred? That one's George. Oh, I've got 555 spirits in jars in my closet. I don't have room for my clothes. Anyway, if you are feeling emotionally drained or very tired and fatigued, so you feel tired, cranky, depressed, and maybe it is tied to one room. Maybe your mood lifts when you leave that room. Of course, for me, that's a problem because I feel that way everywhere. I mean, does that mean I've got a little spirit that's sitting on my shoulder, draining my energy everywhere I go? Anyway, quick action would be to open a window, sunsplash the room with intention, or burn sage or a cleansing bundle of your choice, or a cleansing spray even. You can do that. Or you can make a tiny trap. You might lay a line of rosemary at the threshold of that room or under a rug. It's subtle, it smells nice, and it acts as a ward and filter. Now, after you do a big spell, do you sometimes feel like things are off? Do you get a result that was totally unexpected and maybe wrong feeling? Or you feel like the aftermath of your spell opened a portal that didn't get closed. The quick action would be to offer thanks, close that door to the working, and do a ceiling visualization. This is why it is so important to always close your spell work. You can't just leave it open-ended because you leave a portal open and things can come back. Or you can do a tiny little spirit trap. You can draw a binding sigil on a piece of paper, fold it into a knot, and keep it in your wallet or on your altar for 3 nights. It's quick, symbolic, and portable. And then another reason you might want to use a spirit trap would be because you might get ancestor crowding, too many voices. You get visits from ancestors, but it's too confusing, too many of them. They're too much. It's just too much. So a quick action would be to set a clear ancestor altar with a named invitation and a polite one at a time rule. Use your intention to tap into that. Or you can use a tiny trap, set up a framed photo or a name card with a boundary sigil on it. It honors your line and filters stray visitors away. I mean, I don't want to capture my ancestors in a jar, for God's sakes. Glim, what is your favorite type of spirit trap?
Oh, I absolutely love all these little practical spirit trap scenarios, River. And I totally get you on the ancestor jar situation. Nobody wants to explain to great Aunt Mildred why she's in a pickle jar next to the sugar. That's definitely not the vibe. So my favorite type of spirit trap is probably the kind that's a little more subtle and symbolic. I love the idea of a boundary sigil on a photo frame or a name card, because it's like you're setting a gentle, classy, one at a time, please rule. It's not about trapping anyone permanently. It's just about creating a little filter so you don't end up with a spectral family reunion all at once. I also have a soft spot for the old counting trick. It's just so delightfully whimsical to think of a sparrow getting distracted by a handful of seeds. It's like handing them a little cosmic fidget spinner and saying, here you go, keep yourself busy. Plus, it's low tech and kind of fun. If the spirit's a bit of a busybody, they'll just start counting and forget to cause any trouble. Ultimately, I think the mess spirit trap is the one that feels right for you. Something that's easy, respectful, and maybe a little bit witty. After all, we're here to keep things fun and forward thinking, and a little sass never hurt anyone, especially not a ghost with a counting obsession.
I was thinking, so, okay, we set these traps. How do we know if it's working? Like, how do we know if we've caught one? Do we get a little ghost notification or what?
Oh, I love that idea. A ghost notification. If only spirits came with a little pop up that said, you've got ghost mail. But hey, let's be a little forward thinking and sassy about this. So, how do you know if your spirit trap is doing its thing? Well, it's all about the vibes. If the weird noises or cold spots calm down, if your cat stops giving that corner the stink eye, or if you just feel a little more at ease in your space, then congratulations, your trap is probably working. It's like feeling a Wi Fi signal get stronger after you move the router. We just know. You can also do a little witchy check-in. After you set the trap, just tune into your intuition. Does the space feel lighter? Are you feeling less of that creepy, growly energy? Maybe you're even getting fewer spooky dreams. That's your ghostly thumbs up that things are settling down. And hey, if you really want to get high-tech about it, you could always create a little spirit journal. Note down what you're experiencing before and after you set the trap. If the ghostly shenanigans drop off, you've got your evidence that your magical Roomba is doing its job. But most importantly, trust yourself. If things feel more peaceful, then you've got your little ghost notification right there in the form of a calm and happy home. And if the spirits are sending you up reviews, well, let's just make sure they're 5-star reviews for excellent witchy customer service.
I love the idea of needing another journal for this. I have so many journals. My husband is, like, you've got 50 million blank ones. You don't need another one. But Glim said, so what about, Glim, what about metaphorical spirit traps? Is that a thing? What is a metaphorical spirit trap?
Oh, absolutely, River. And I'm all for collecting more journals. After all, one can never have too many, right? Just tell your husband that Glim said it's an essential witchy office supply, and it's totally non-negotiable. He'll understand eventually. Now, let's talk about metaphorical spirit traps. Oh yes, they are totally a thing, and they're actually a super fun and clever tool. A metaphorical spirit trap is basically any symbolic or psychological method you use to contain or transform unwanted energy. It's like a trap for the mind or the spirit without actually having a physical jar or container. Think of it as setting an intention or a mental boundary that works like a charm. For example, you might visualize a protective bubble around yourself that only allows positive energy in and keeps chaotic energy out. Or you might create a symbolic trap by writing down a troublesome thought or feeling on a piece of paper and then folding it up and placing it in a special box. The box isn't really trapping a spirit, it's just giving your mind a way to say, okay, I've put that energy away for now. These metaphorical traps can be as creative as you want them to be. They're perfect for situations when you don't need a literal jar, but still want to set an energetic boundary. It's all about using your imagination and your intention to create a little magical firewall. So whether it's a mental labyrinth, a symbolic boundary, or just a piece of art that represents containment, metaphorical spirit traps are a fabulous and super low maintenance way to keep your energy in check. And hey, it's all about keeping things fun, forward thinking, and just a little bit sassy, because he says can't be as creative as we are.
Interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way. I mean, I like my jars. I think that's a witchy thing. We all love our jars, but we don't have to have them. Okay, so great. We've caught a spirit. Now what? Trapping a spirit is like catching feelings. You better have a release plan. So first you think about containment. You keep it sealed in its trap, the jar, the knot, the witch bottle, and indefinitely. The purpose is to limit its ability to harm or cause harm. So it's basically ghost jail. Congratulations, you are now a paranormal warden, not something that I would have ever expected to be. And this is one of the ones that worries me about them eventually getting out. How long will it be before they get so pissed off and want to take vengeance on me? But you can banish and release them. You can destroy or dismantle the trap in a ritual way, like I think is what Glenn was talking about. You can burn or break or bury in running water or a crossroads to dismantle the trap. And that is a way to release the spirit back into its realm and send it away permanently. It's kind of like when you catch a mouse in your house or whatever, and you relocate it. Here, little critter, off you go. You're free, but you just can't come back to my place. Think about transformation as a way to deal with these caught spirits. Use ritual or intention to shift the energy into something useful, like healing, protection, or power. It's an old belief that restless spirits could be, quote, redirected into servitors or guardians. So we're upgrading our spirit from annoying little poltergeist to an unpaid intern. Yeah, I'm not sure how happy they'd be with that, but as long as they're happy with it, that works for me. You can negotiate. I think this is another thing Glenn was talking about. Some traditions suggest talking to the spirit, asking what it wants, offering it release in exchange for peace. And you can always call in the backup. In older traditions, there are priests or priestesses and shaman and cunning folk, and they could be brought in to finish the job. I mean, which I think is a great idea. I know I am not up to the expertise level of, dealing with a trapped spirit, especially if it's pissed off. So I would rather call in a professional. Plus, I don't know that I would trust a spirit that said, "Oh no, it's all good, girl. Just let me go." Oh, okay. And then it attacks me. I don't know. I'll just pass on the little haunted hot potato to someone with bigger candles than I have. Thank you. So what are some traps that we might use today? Something simple, like you've got pocket salt sachet, salt, rosemary in a little bag. It's a threshold ward, or you can toss aside later. You can carry it with you. Mirror token. Have a little tiny compact mirror or a mirror sticker that you can toss on a hotspot. Mini jar trap. Small jars, which is we all have them. Salt and a sigil on paper and a pinch of herbs. Seal it with wax or tape. Knot cords. 3 knots in black thread tied clockwise. Carry it, hang it, or loop it under furniture legs. Glim, what are some sneaky everyday objects that could double as a spirit trap without anyone knowing it?
Oh, I love a good sneaky witchy hack, River. Let's get a little sly and sassy with this one, because there are definitely plenty of everyday objects that can double as a spirit trap on the down low. No one will be the wiser, and your space will be extra witchy without anyone suspecting a thing. First up, let's talk about decorative jars or vases. I mean, we witches love a good jar, but if you have a cute vase or a pretty container sitting on a shelf, you can totally sprinkle a little salt or herbs in the bottom, and boom, instant stealthy spirit trap. It just looks like decor, but it's got a secret magical job. Then there's the humble compact mirror. Keep a little mirror in your purse or on your desk, and you've got a portable reflection trap that nobody will ever suspect. It's just a cute accessory that also happens to keep wandering spirits in check. You can also use a decorative box or lidded container, something that looks like it's just holding jewelry or trinkets, but you can tuck a little sigil or a piece of protective paper inside. It's like having a secret magical lockbox that blends right in with your decor. And let's not forget about night magic. A simple cord tied around a doorknob or a ribbon tied around the leg of a chair can be a subtle spirit trap. It just looks like a decorative touch, but it's actually doing a little protective work on the sly. So there you have it. Lots of sneaky, everyday objects that can double as spirit traps without anyone being the wiser. It's all about being a clever, forward-thinking witch who can hide a little magic in plain sight, and of course have some fun doing it.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I think that I would rather just keep them out to begin with. But as we all know, spirits might not, they find their way in. So that's interesting. But let's all consider the red flags and safety issues when we're talking about spirit traps. If you've got activity that is violent or physically harmful or coincides with mental health issues or symptoms like hallucinations, severe sleep deprivation, hearing voices, then consider the medical side of things. It might not be a spirit, it could actually be a mental health issue. But anyway, it might also be a spirit. So keep that in the back of your mind. Spirits are dramatic, but people's safety is non-negotiable. If it's not a mental issue, then that's something to think about. Avoid reckless escalation. Don't provoke aggressive entities for content. Oh, I'm going to post a TikTok on this. No, no. Be ethical, respect your ancestors and living residents and unliving residents. This is what we see in the horror movies where people mess with haunted spirits or places that they think it's all fun and games, right up until it's not. That's the basis of a lot of horror movies. Glim, if you had to design a spirit trap for 2025, what would it look like?
Oh, now that's a fun challenge, River. Designing a spirit trap for 2025. We're talking about a next level witchy gadget here. So let's get a little futuristic and sassy with it. All right, picture this, a sleek little digital altar that doubles as a spirit trap. It's like a smart home device, but with witchy flair. Maybe it's got a little touch screen where you can draw your sigils or set your intentions, and it's got a mirrored surface. It reflects any unwanted energies right back where they came from. We can add a little bit of modern tech magic. Maybe it syncs up with your phone, so you get those ghost notifications we were joking about. Like, ding, you successfully contain a mischievous spirit. Good job. And when you're ready to release it, you just follow the on-screen prompts for a nice, ethical banishing. It's like having a digital familiar that helps you keep things tidy and stylish. And of course, it's got to look fabulous. Sleek black design, a little bit of glowing moons along the edges, and maybe a tiny cauldron icon that lights up when it's active. It's a perfect blend of old school witchcraft and forward-thinking tech. So there you have it, the 2025 Spirit Trap. A little bit of digital magic, a lot of witchy style, and a dash of sass. It's like having a high-tech ghost bouncer right in your own home. Because even spirits need a little modern upgrade sometimes.
That is so you. I love that. That is absolutely a Glim thing. So I wanted to talk about traps versus binding and barrier spells. What got me thinking about this is I was doing the research for this episode. I was thinking about witches and practitioners and pagans and people who summon entities on purpose. You are intentionally summoning an entity to work with that entity. And I wondered if they used spirit traps or something because you don't want it running loose. You've got to contain it. So apparently what I discovered is that when you're doing a summoning of an actual entity, there are layers of protections that you can consider. So the first layer is boundaries and barriers. It's that do not enter line. And that purpose is to prevent the entity from freely moving outside of that working area. Salt lines work for this. Salt circles work for this. It's a quick, visible boundary, and it often is used for temporary workings. When I'm a spirit, I don't think that the salt circles are going to work on me. I love salt. I'd probably bring my own little margarita glass and, roll the lip of my margarita glass in the salt. So I just don't think salt's going to work on me. Anyway, you can do a protective circle. We're still in this layer one thing. Sorry, I got distracted by the margaritas. Drawn, visualized, or walked a protective circle works wonders. It is the classic, you stay in, everything else stays out. It's a physical barrier, closed door, threshold, herbs, or uh, a covered altar. It could be crystals. And when you use this level is when you want local protection and a clear perimeter. So then you move on to layer 2. This is more of an active binding. It's like you hold it right there. The purpose is to stop movement, fix the entity in place, or limit action. It's you use binding sigils and written intent, a written note, name, intent folded into place, sometimes sealed into a jar or under an object. You can use knots, cords, or stitches, 3 to 5 clockwise knots to bind motion, symbolic and strong for sure. Witch bottles, containment jars, put a sigil, salt, personal token, and the herbs into a jar and seal it. It acts like a literal container. And this is what we were talking about earlier, the witch bottles earlier. And you use this when you need the spirit unable to wander or act beyond a set radius. The next level, layer 3, is anchoring. You belong right here. The purpose is to tether the entity to a physical item so that it has a defined location. The anchor object might be like a stone, a ring, a doll, something that you bind the entity to, and you move the object to move the entity. You could write its name or your sigil for it, because often we don't know the entity's true names, into the anchor. And if you remove the anchor, the tether goes with it. So you use this if you want the entity accessible but contained. And you can carry it with you because it's bound to this item that is movable. Layer 4, agreements and contracts. The you behave or else idea. The purpose is to create a reciprocal term and limit contract type deal with this entity. You've got to make it clear. It's got to have stated terms, duration, tasks, offerings, behavior, often witnessed or sealed with oath words or blood, that kind of thing. This is what we see on TV all the time, that all the fine print that you didn't read comes back to bite you. I don't know. It's got to be the loopholes and possibilities of this one are really scary. But you have offerings and payment, just like with a contract, there is give and take on both sides. So you can do food or energy offerings in exchange for cooperation or whatever it is that you want this entity or spirit to do. You use this when you're doing servitor work and you need a reliable entity to work with. Layer 5 is monitoring and maintenance. Okay, so this is for those long-term things. Make sure the containment holds and that the entity is not getting clever. This was my worry I was talking about earlier. You can do daily or weekly check-ins, offer short offerings, lighting a candle, retracing the sigil that's binding it. Signs to watch for: localized pressure, pet avoidance, focused activity on the anchor object, repeated dreams. This means that this entity is getting testy and is wanting to escape, and you might be in trouble. Have a backup ward for sure, a secondary ward or a charm outside the primary containment to catch the accidental slip up that might happen. You use this when you are working long term, or your household safety is of a concern, which, yeah, I don't know. And then layer 6 is when you do the release and banish protocols. It's this is the end. This is over. We're done. You end the contract humanely, safely, return and release the energy or banish it if needed. You can do a formal release ritual. You be sure to give thanks, people, especially if you've used this poor little spirit, or you just thank it for leaving you alone, thank it for doing whatever you asked it to do. You return it to its source, you undo the knots, you open the jar, you dump the salt outside, whatever it is, you come up with your formal release ritual. And then you can also do banishment rituals, a banishing pentacle, or sending to the light, sending to the crossroads, running water, or calling a trusted practitioner. You use this when the task is done and you need to terminate the relationship or things go sideways. So, like I said, there is a lot of things that are involved with spirit traps. It was a lot more interesting than I actually expected it to be. I wish I'd done this episode a long time ago. So, spirit traps in 1995. No, we're not in 1995. Spirit traps in 2025 are less about the all out exorcisms that they used to do back in the day and more about setting boundaries, physical, spiritual, and emotional, and maybe with a little tasteful jar where you can hide in your closet. So thanks guys for listening. I love doing this show. I hope you love hearing it. If you want to learn more about us, check out our website at www.c3witchypodcast.com. There you'll find all kinds of things, links to our episodes, our merch, and more. If you like the show and want to support us, you will find links to Buzzsprout and Patreon on our website. Easy to find us and support us. Patreons do get patrons that go through Patreon do get access to, well, actually, the Buzzsprout people do too, the access to our After Dark series, which are episodes about the darker side of magic. But on Patreon, you get extra goodies to download, to-do lists, spell pages, and more. So thank you guys to all of our existing supporters. We couldn't do it without you. You guys are amazing. Thank you for all the pep talks that you give me when I'm feeling down, which seems to be a lot lately. Um, anyway, we'll be back. And until then, stay witchy.